All right, so for the next Mbongi, well, for the final Mbongi, we have cult rhetorics and detecting lies. And on the side over here, we have folkways, mores against society's values, and folkways not strictly enforced. So this would be more like of a rebellious. This looks more like a rebellious example, and this looks like a disliked example. And then over here we have confirmation bias, which was something that we went over, what I went over before for my previous assignment, my research assignment. This is facts and evidence we ignore, and then our beliefs, evidence that we believe. And then over here we have traits of those with the Dunning-Kruger effect, which is, if you don't remember from the previous assignment that I did and from the previous Mbongi that I did, this is pretty much about like how somebody has an ego, or affecting how they can get a certain task done because of their ego. And as you can see, we got lack of critical thinking, fragile ego, like I said before, and this also plays a role in super ego, id ego, and ego. So if you don't know about that id super ego, that also plays a role in this too. And over here we have difficulty accepting feedback, poor communication. We have a communication model, communication example, and then we have Maslow's hierarchy of needs. That's another example. We've seen this one before. So we'll head over here, and over here on the side we have cult rhetorics, investigates the language and strategies used to create, sustain, and manipulate group dynamics within the cult, like structures, by analyzing how rhetoric is employed to establish authority, reinforce social norms, and controlling narratives. This module reveals the psychological and social mechanisms behind cult operations. Students will explore the impact of persuasion, collective memory, and pseudo-historical narratives and on individual and group behavior through critical analysis. This module equips learners with tools to recognize manipulative rhetoric and to understand the broader suicidal implications of cult-like dynamics in both historical and modern contexts. What should you do this week? And then here we got essays. You should be working on your essays, seeing Blackboard information, and then other assignments. So for this start of the Mbongi, we have define the following terms, and a simple definition and citation will do. So this isn't like a research, this is just putting down a definition and a citation. So what we're gonna start with is doomerism, the end of times are near. And for doomerism, we have is the belief that the future is destined to get more, and the belief that the future is destined to get worse, and that individual or collective actions are unlikely to make a difference. And then from here, the citation, Merriam-Webster 2026, Doomer in Merriam-Webster.com dictionary. Next is Christian nationalism. Christian nationalism is the belief that nation's identity, laws, and government should be closely connected to or guided by Christian beliefs and values. Whitehead AL and Perry SL of 2020, Taking America Back for God, Christian Nationalism in the United States, Oxford. And next we have immigration myths. Immigration myths are false or misleading beliefs about immigrants or immigration that are often based on stereotypes, misinformation, or unsupported claims rather than factual evidence. A Carnegie source is especially useful because it directly addresses common immigration myths with evidence and is written for a general audience. Then next we have Japanese concentration camps in America. Japanese American concentration camps were facilities established by the United States government during World War II to incarcerate Japanese Americans after Executive Order 9066, resulting in the forced removal and confinement of approximately 120,000 people of Japanese ancestry. Those are 2004 prisoners without trial Japanese Americans in World War II, and Hill and Wang. So that's the citation. Next is San T. Siak's mass execution by Abraham Lincoln. T. Siak's mass execution was the execution of 38 Dakota Santian Siak's men by the U.S. government in Mankato, Minnesota on December 26, 1862, following the U.S. Dakota War. National Park Service in the Dakota War of 1862, U.S. Department of the Interior. Next, we have thought-terminating cliche. Thought-terminating cliche is a short, familiar phrase used to stop a conversation or discourage people from thinking more deeply about an issue. Lifton R.J. 1961, Thought, Reform, and Psychology of Totalism, a study of brainwashing in China, W.W. Norton and Company. And then we have us versus them thinking. Us versus them thinking is a way of thinking that divides people into the opposing groups. Us and them often leading to stereotypes, conflict, or prejudice by emphasizing differences instead of common ground. Talif H. and Turner J.C. 1979, an integrative theory of intergroup conflict, in W.G. Austin and S. Warholm eds The Social Psychology of Intergroup Relations on page 3347, Brooks and Cole. We have repetition of talking points. Repetition of talking points is the repeated use of some words, phrases, or messages to reinforce an idea to make it more persuasive. Emerson E. Wilson, TD, and Arquette, RM, 2019, Social Psychology, and 10th E.D. Pearson. So that's just like the citation. And then here we have fear-based persuasion. Fear-based persuasion is a communication strategy that uses fear of the threat of negativity. And we have Whit K. Allen in 2000, a meta-analysis of fear appeals implications for effective public health campaigns, health and education behavior. Next, we have a spiritual psychosis. Spiritual psychosis is described as a condition in which a person has difficulty distinguishing spiritual or religious experiences. American Psychiatric Association 2022 Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. Next, we have logical fallacies. This is actually going to be talked about, and we're going to go over a lot of the things about this in this Mbongi. But yeah, logical fallacies are errors in reasoning that make an argument weak or misleading, even if the conclusion seems convincing. And then the citation, Weston A. 2018, a rule book for arguments, 5th edition, Hackett Publishing Company. And then here we have Page Act of 1875. The Page Act of 1875 was the first major U.S. federal immigration law. Lee E. 2003, at America's Gates, Chinese immigration during the exclusion era, 1882-1943, the University of North Carolina Press. Next is People versus Hall. People versus Hall, 1854, was a California Supreme Court case that ruled Chinese people could not testify against white people in court. Citation, McLean C.J. 1994, In Search of Equality. Next is United States versus Wong Kim Ark. United States versus Wong Kim Ark, 1898, was a U.S. Supreme Court case that ruled that people born in the United States are U.S. citizens, regardless of their parents, and are not foreign diplomats or enemy occupiers. Chin G.J. 2005, citation, why Senator John McCain cannot be president. 11 months and 100 years of doubt about the meaning of the National Born Citizen Clause. Next is Haitian Revolution and the mistreatment of Haiti from other countries. The Haitian Revolution was a successful revolt by enslaved people in the French colony of Saint Dominique between 1791 and 1804. Gegas DP 2002, citation, Haitian Revolutionary Studies, Indiana University, Press. Next is White Citizen Council. The White Citizen Council was a network of white segregationist organizations formed in the United States in 1954 to oppose racial integration and the civil rights movement through political, economic, and social pressure. Bartley, NV, 1969. Next is Confessional Rhetorics of Disability in the Church. Confessional Rhetorics of Disability and Characteristics to the way church encourages people with disabilities to publicly shame personal stories of suffering, healing, or faith as testimonies. And then at the bottom we have the citation, Brockby, Shrenton, J. eds. 2012, Disability in the Christian Tradition, a reader, WMB Erdens Publishing. That's a citation. And then next is Native American Assimilation Schools. Native American assimilation schools were boarding schools established in the United States to force Native American children to abandon their languages, cultures, and traditions. Adams, D.W., 1995, Education of Extinction American Indians, and the Boarding School Experience, 1875-1928, University Press of Kansas. So that's the definition in the citation. Hernandez versus Texas. Hernandez versus Texas, 1954, was a U.S. Supreme Court case that ruled Mexican Americans were protected under the 14th Amendment and could not be excluded from juries based on race or ethnicity. Next is Mendez versus Westminster. Mendez versus Westminster, 1947, was a federal court case that ruled that separating Mexican American children from other students in California public schools was unconstitutional. Mendez SA and Mendez DG 2012, Mendez v. Webster, and Desegregating California Schools. So there's a citation. Groupthink. Groupthink is a psychological phenomenon where members of a group prioritize agreement and unity over critical thinking. Jennings, IL, 1972, citation. Victims of groupthink, a psychological study of foreign policy decisions, and Fayette was Houghton Mifflin. Next, we have gender hierarchies. Gender hierarchies are social systems that rank people based on gender, often giving more power, status, and opportunities to one gender over others. Connell R.W. 2005, Masculinity, Second Education, University of California Press. Public executions and lynching. Public executions and lynching are forms of public violence where individuals are killed in front of or with the knowledge of a community. Equal Justice Initiative 2017, Lynching in America, Confronting the Legacy of Racial Terror, and Third Education. We have disinformation, malinformation, and misinformation. Disinformation, misinformation, and malinformation are different types of false or harmful information. Wardell-C and Deckerell, Sean H. 2017, Information Disorder Towards an Interdisciplinary Framework for Research and Policy Making. States' reasons for secession. Each state's reason for secession refers to the explanation given by Southern states for leaving the United States before the Civil War, which included protecting slavery, preserving state rights, and defending their economic political systems. McPherson, J.M., 2003, Battle Cry of Freedom, Civil War Era, Oxford University Press. Next, we have social norms. Mores and folkways are types of social norms that guide behavior. Summer, W.G., with the citation, Summer, W.G., 1906, Folkways, a study of sociological importance of usage, manners, customs, more and more moral gin company. Then we have cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is the mental discomfort people experience when they are told to hold two conflicting beliefs, attitudes, or behaviors, causing them to try to reduce the inconsistency. And then for the citation, we have Pfingstinger, L., 1957, A Theory of Cognitive Dissonance, and Stanford University Press. And next we have pseudoscience. Pseudoscience is a set of beliefs of practices that claim to be scientific but lack reliability evidence, proper testing, or the methods used by legitimate science. Shamir M. 1997, Why People Believe Weird Things, Pseudoscience, Superstition, and Other Confusions of Our Time, W.H. Freeman. Next, we have historical memory. Historical memory is the way individuals and societies remember, interpret, and pass down understandings of past events through education, culture, traditions, and public discussions. How about H.M. 1992 on collective memory? And then over here we have L.A. Loser Trans. Period. Collective memory. Memory is the shared understanding of the past that a group or society develops through stories, traditions, education, and cultural practices. How about M. 1992 on collective memory? L.A. Loser Trans, University of Chicago Press. Original work published in 1950. We have social memory. Social memory is the way societies remember, preserve, and interpret the past through shared stories, traditions, institutions, and cultural practices. Oleg J. Cave, Vandalizing Series of V. and Live D. eds. in 2011. The Collective Memory Reader, Oxford University Press. We have public memory. Memory is the way society collectively remembers and represents the past through public spaces, monuments, museums, media, education, political discussions. Bodnar J. 1992, Remaking America, Public Commotions and Patriotism in the 20th Century, Princeton University Press. Pseudo-history. Pseudo-history is a false or misleading version of the past that presents itself as history but lacks reliable evidence, scholarly research, or proper historical methods. Sherman M. Graham and Graham A. 2009, Denying History, who says the Holocaust never happened and why do they say it? University of California Press. We have pseudo-historical narratives. So pseudo-historical narratives are false or misleading stories about the past that intimate, legitimate history, but rely on inaccurate information or biased interprets rather than accepted historical research methods. Citation, Evans R.J. 1997, In Defense of History, Grunter Books. Next, we have media literacy. We actually went over this on our first paper. Media literacy is the ability to access, analyze, and evaluate, create, and understand media messages across different forms of communication. Alfred P. 1993, Media Literacy, a report of the National Leadership and Conference on the Media Literacy, Aspen Institute. And finally, we have How Do Cults Operate? How do cults operate refers to the methods of high control groups used to recruit, influence, and retain members. And for the citation, we have Hassan S. 2015, Combating Cult Mind Control, Reverend Freedom of Mind Press. And since this isn't a research and we're just doing the definition and just a simple citation, there's no need for me to pull up what website or what article I got my citations from. Just a simple definition and citation. And then we'll move on to the next page.